How's everyone doing tonight? This is Chopping It Up Hardcore with Hal Capone, discussion number 63. Tonight I have a special guest. My special guest tonight is Stephen Pierce from the amazing bands Ampere, The Last 40 Seconds, Montcalm, Aerosols, Kindling, and a solo project that he's doing right now called Gold Dust. Can't wait to talk about that. That's coming out in a couple weeks. Talk about the old times, everything in between. Super stoked to talk to him. Hope everybody's good. Hope everybody's well. I had a full basketball day today. My girls played basketball in the morning, and then I got a little practice in at the outside court by my house. So, yeah, it's been a basketball day for sure. But Steven should be joining us any minute. I want to give a shout out to Ron from Gene Scene Creamers, who put my old band High School Sweethearts discography on his Bandcamp. So if anybody wants to check that out, it's just some old early 2000s screamo type of stuff. And he's also putting out some limited tapes too as well, if anybody wants that stuff too. But yeah, super stoked on this talk. Ampere. I'll grab Steven right now. Steven, how you doing?
Hey, doing well. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me all right?
I can, yeah. Can you
Perfect.
hear me all right?
Yep, perfect. You're a little tiny blurry, but I can hear you perfectly.
Our internet in East Hampton is not so good. Where we have to go with Charter Spectrum, so I'm opting for cell data over the Wi-Fi. So sorry.
That's all right. I want to thank you so much for taking time out to do this, especially on a Sunday. I know people are busy on Sundays, and I just want to say really, it's a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you so much.
Pleasure's all mine. Thanks for having me.
Usually when I start off on these discussions, I usually ask, what got you into punk and hardcore? What were the bands that kind of grabbed you, that made you want to get into the scene? And also, what were you listening to before punk and hardcore?
Well, a family friend got me into it really young. He turned, embarrassingly, Screeching Weasel is the band, which I say embarrassingly because of Ben Weasel's more recent antics than anything else. But yeah, Screeching Weasel, My Brain Hurts was the record, and then followed the wormhole down. That got me into got Born Against on my radar, and from there it was straight into like Conflict, Crass, all the UK anarcho stuff, and Disrupt, Us Rotten, the American alarmists turned sages, I suppose. Before that, so the family friend that got me into it, his name was Brendan. I was young, man. Like I was like 11, 12, 13, in that zone. He kind of not rescued me, but like the stuff I had, I guess, before that was like Rust in Peace, like some Soundgarden stuff, all the stuff that like a kid who was watching MTV and liked the louder stuff would have gone down to Sam Goody and bought. Got it.
Did you ever get into like the old school New York hardcore when you were younger?
No, not the slightest bit. All that stuff. So Ampere played this show where we did it was a Halloween show that our friend John Galanis, or not Halloween, around Christmas show that our friend John Galanis put on, where we did a number of straight edge covers. One of which was by Gorilla Biscuits. Now, like the SSD sort of, Boston straight edge stuff, I of course knew about and liked, but as far as like the Revelation stuff, New York stuff,
yeah,
not so much. But I sort of dove into it after my whole arc was sort of like fully developed with punk, or at least by punk and hardcore standards. But yeah, I came to it in adulthood. I have some Warzone records,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I didn't hear Victim in Pain until Aerosols was getting together.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I had this idea in my head of what Agnostic Front was,
Yeah.
and it wasn't Victim in Pain.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't expecting like, you know, could have played a show with Void
Yeah.
sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. But were you thinking more like Cause for Alarm style of Agnostic Front, kind of like the more metal-ish style?
I mean, even later than that, because I ended up kind of liking Cause for Alarm too.
Yeah.
But you know, it's tough to say, but I kind of judged them by, you know, the sort of people that would terrify me that I'd see wearing their shirts. Which is like, it's too real. You know, I mean, same with Slapshot. I didn't get into Slapshot until, you know, my friend Chris O'Coin, who played in Aerosols with me and Wasteland before that.
Yeah.
He, you know, was a big, if I recall correct, I don't want to like assign Slapshot fandom, but you know, I remember him liking Slapshot and kind of, you know, being the key that unlocked that door for me, I guess.
Now, are you skateboarding too? Because I always talk to people, and that kind of bridged the gap between kind of like, you know, what they were listening to before punk and hardcore. Were you a skateboarder?
Oh yeah, yep, yeah. I you know, I got some of my first. I would go down to like Coconuts and Sam Goody and whatever, all the suburban Boston shops, and ask them for just the shit that I'd see at the back of the CCS catalog. You know, like,
Yeah.
do you have? And it was essentially like lookout stuff. Like, do you have, you know, the lookouts? Do you have Pinhead Gunpowder? Anything like, you know, this we're talking probably like mid '90s, mid to late '90s, a little earlier than that. But yeah, I mean, I skated. You know, I was in this crust punk band when I was a, you know, teenager. It was sort of like the genesis of it was just we skated together, and we all liked Conflict and Ostraten.
Yeah.
And you know, the rest is, I guess, you know, in the history books. Unfortunately, that band did put out a 7-inch, which I've spent my entire adult life trying to outrun that shit, but. But you know, Will found a copy. Will, my bandmate in Ampere, found a copy in Asheville, North Carolina, used at a shop. It was like dollar bin shit, and I have like, that's like the closest to like mad I've been on tour like that. Like, how dare you buy this like embarrassing relic of? And you know, I probably shouldn't even be talking about it, but lest people seek it out.
Now, was that your first band, or did you have what was your first band, and what?
I mean, I had shitty bands that did like, you know, basement covers of like, you know, Screeching Weasel songs. Like one of the first songs that I remember learning on guitar was Science of Myth by Screeching Weasel. But you know, I mean, I had bands that would play like, you know, the occasional like sad gymnasium show in the suburbs. But yeah, I mean, the first band that like loaded up our shit and went places and did some stuff, even if it was just in like New England, was this crust punk band.
Yeah.
You know, it was great. I mean, we played the Brighton Elks a ton, played with like some of the best bands, you know, as far as we were concerned, the best bands from Boston at that time. Like, you know, we would play shows with like Pinkerton Thugs and like The Unseen, August Spies, stuff like that. Sadly, never played with Showcase Showdown, but that was one of definitely like my hyper regional gateway bands at the time. I don't know if anyone still gives a shit about them. I bought a shirt. They redid their shirts a couple of years ago, and I bought one. Ill-fitting, but.
So when picking up the guitar, was that first before you wanted to be like a vocalist? What came first? And
I never wanted to be a vocalist.
No.
I still don't want to be a vocalist. Yeah, it's less shit to hide behind, you know? Like, yeah. I like to hide. Yeah. No, that was certainly never my intent. Like the thing that I struggle with still is like lyrics. Like, you know, who the fuck am I? Like, why do like what am I putting out there? Why should anyone care? It,
Yeah, but
it's way easier when it's just like a riff, where it's like objectively like, yeah, this riff's good.
yeah.
Where, I don't know, man. Like, lyrics are hard. Lyrics are very hard.
I mean, I think big impact on lyrics though for a lot of people. I mean, Ampere is a huge band. I do a lot of talks on here, and a lot of people are always praising Ampere and the sound and the lyrics and stuff like that. And I always ask at the end who your favorite New England punk hardcore band is, and Ampere's name gets thrown around a lot. You know what I mean? So
It's really flattering.
I think a lot of people are appreciative of the lyrics that were put into, Ampere and even Montcalm. I mean, I was a huge Montcalm fan.
That exists.
Yeah, I saw you guys like as much as I could in that. It was within like 2000 to 2006. I think I had seen Ampere, Montcalm, and Last 40 Seconds like over double handfuls of times, you know what I mean? So I was trying to go as much as I could to see the bands that you were in.
I think that your documentation of Montcalm is the only stuff that's out there.
Really?
It's the stuff that comes up when it's like, I mean, fair enough. It's the only stuff that I've seen really. There's like a video from Friendly Fest, Brian Fernet's Friendly Fest. That was you, right?
Yeah, that was me. Yep.
I think there's something from Jersey that I've seen otherwise.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's not much out there. I didn't think at the time that people were like giving shit enough to film it. But yeah, I mean, like you've done a huge service for New England hardcore of that era. That like, we weren't really writing our own histories at the time. It didn't feel like something that was going to be like, 20 years later, something someone would be talking about. But like hats off to you for catching so much. I mean, there have been bands like Backstabbers Inc. that like I remember loving at the time. Completely forgot about them. Reminded because of one of your videos. Like, I mean, it's a great resource, and between that and the stuff that Brian Fernet's been posting, or at least was posting a while back, of some of the shows that he was doing at the at UConn. I mean, that's invaluable. I'm really glad that you guys had the foresight to, not just let it all pass.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to meet Brian, and we became friends when I kept going down there with my friends, and I got to record a lot of shows down there. And he put on so many amazing shows, the Friendly Fest alone, but just any of his shows, the lineups were always packed down there. Doors, or even when he was doing it in Waterbury or Wallen.
Oh yeah. Like the what was it, Brass City Records?
Yeah, Brass City Records, and then they would put that like a VFW in Waterbury also.
Yeah. Remember all that? I remember at the Waterbury shop, they would without fail after every show, as people were filtering out, they'd put on this like video of when Sunny Day Real Estate played there. On the Diary tour. Yeah. It was like their claim to fame, I guess.
Yeah. That place put on shows for a long time too. It was great. I like small but just really great shows put on there.
Yeah. Cool to, I mean, it's always cool to do some record shopping while you're about to play a show too.
I always talk about Pete from Sinaloa as well, putting on amazing shows as well.
Yeah.
Even as early as like the Converge and Cave-In shows way back in the day at the Red Bar, on shows like that. Those two guys in general for New England hardcore and screamo, I guess you would call it, leaps and bounds what they did. It's incredible what both those guys did for putting on shows.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Tin Can stuff was like, even when I was in high school, like Mike from my old crust band and I would always talk about like trying to get down there. I was like, oh shit, Reversal of Man is playing this year. I mean, I only got to play one of those Tin Cans. I think you might have video of it. It was with Montcalm.
Yep, the one in Providence.
Yep, yeah. But I mean, that was such an incredible experience, and just as a fan of that sort of thing at the time too, and as someone like, kind of like trying to figure out like where I belonged in life, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of cool that it was really cool that people like Pete, and then later on people like Brian were creating those sort of spaces where like an idiot kid with not a lot to say would maybe make a friend.
Yeah, exactly. I was very quiet back then, so I didn't really talk to too many
Yeah.
people. I was always friendly with Pete and Brian, and I guess that put my foot through the door to find out about all the shows, because like one of those Montcalm shows that you guys played, it was in just like some random house in Alston in a basement. You guys played with I think it was Now Denial, the Ames Curve, First Aid Kit, and something else, and we barely could find the house because there was no flyer. We just thought we were looking for like punk kids to walk.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, do you know what it is? And
Ask a punk.
we found it. So that was a really, really good show though too as well.
Yeah. I think you have video of that one too. I remember that one. That was one of I think that was one of our last shows. There was never any like sort of intentional end to that band. I think we played like a couple of shows after that, but yeah, that was sort of as it was just kind of dying out. And I remember that set being pretty fun to play.
Yeah, all those bands were really, really good that night as well.
Yeah, I guess Rob from the Ames Curve does comedy now.
Yes, I saw that.
I saw it when I guess he had a residency at Great Scott. Of course, before all this and before it had to shut down.
Yeah.
That I saw just on a flyer, Too Little Too Late, when Kindling was playing there towards the end.
Yeah.
Right before the old shutdown. But yeah, cool to see him doing stuff. Cool. It's cool to see so many people doing stuff outside of punk hardcore. Like I know I mentioned Chris from Aerosols earlier. Did you see he just won an Emmy?
No.
So he's doing editing for PBS's Frontline, and one of the episodes that they put together won a fucking Emmy.
Wow, no kidding. Wow.
I mean, it's well deserved. He's, it's been incredible to watch the arc of his work in video, and it's absolutely incredible, and I can't imagine how it must feel to like. That's got to be the apex, right? Like,
yeah.
What more could you want in film than?
I know. Going back a little ways, what got you to play guitar? Why did you want to pick up the guitar and stop playing?
Well, my dad played. My uncle played. I just sort of, got one when I was, 9 or so.
Yeah.
I just fuck around with like my brother and like other kids in the neighborhood, just writing these like 2-chord like dun, dun, dun. Like, these felt like a real badass, I'm sure. Yeah, you know how it goes. Like I had just like a shitty guitar. I didn't know how to play it. Could make a couple of noises. I learned from Screeching Weasel or Ramones and all that I didn't really need to know how to play it.
Yeah.
And just sort of ran from there. And I'm still not sure that I know how to play it, but but it makes noise.
I'd like to speak about Last 40 Seconds. How did that band get together? And I love the Last 40 Seconds. I really like the Trillion Barnacle Lap split that was put out, and also the demo that was put out as well. How did that band get together, and what were your memories of that band?
So I can't really speak to how it got together or very much about that band. I was in the Last 40 Seconds for a while, but I joined about, probably about halfway through its existence, maybe a little further than halfway through. I wasn't, it's funny, the video that you posted was, I was stoked to see that it was actually one that I played bass in that band.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the songs that I had written my bass parts rather than just like playing something that someone else had recorded before.
Yeah.
So I joined it, I think they had an ad up on one of those early like, I can't remember the name of it. It was one of those New England like directory of bands with like a very rudimentary message board. Not Adam X, not Honey Pump, but like something before those.
Yeah.
Someone had posted something like looking for a bassist, and I played guitar, but I was thinking like, I can play bass.
Yeah.
Fewer strings, I can figure it out. It's super fucking hard instrument to play, but in my 18-year-old mind, I thought like, hey, I can cobble together some chords on guitar. I'm sure I'll be a whiz at this, and I wasn't. But they had me into their band, and it was at that point Andy and Andy, and that was the first U.S. tour that I went on. That was the first European tour that I went on. I mean, there was a lot of weirdness, but a lot of really great first experiences. And obviously Andy and I have been playing in bands together since.
Yeah.
He lives in France now, so it's a little harder now. But
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, all through the day that he moved to France, yeah, made some lifelong friendships there. And the other Andy, Andy Maddox, who went on to do Saddest Landscape and Her Breath on Glass, we sort of fell out. I didn't see him or talk to him in probably over a decade, until Kindling and Saddest Landscape played the City of Caterpillar reunion show in Boston.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which was kind of nice. Nice to catch up. Essentially say like, hey, I was young fucking idiot, and him being like, hey, I was a slightly less young fucking idiot, and it's good. It's good. I've seen him a couple of times since, just sort of in passing, but
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, Kindling got to play with. I mean, you guys played with City of Caterpillar, and then you got to play the Jerome's Dream show as well in Somerville.
Yeah, and one of the Page 99 reunions. We were the I guess indie rock band of the screamo reunion circuit.
Yeah. Yeah. So what were your thoughts on just seeing those older bands come back together and play again?
They still fucking did it, man. Like they were like Jerome's Dream, like absolutely crushed. Like
Yeah.
I saw Jerome's Dream a bunch. They played a ton out here. I would go to see them when they were playing elsewhere. Like Jerome's Dream, they like fully delivered on at least at the Somerville show that we played with. That was like, I mean, that was one of those shows where I found a cool spot to stand, sort of side stage, where like I had a good view but it didn't sound like total shit. And well, I mean, firstly, like Jerome's Dream always kind of sounded like total shit, and that was kind of like the charm.
Yeah.
But it was wild to see, with a microphone, with PAs. It was great. I mean, they were awesome. They played great. And I mean, of course, City of Caterpillar and Page 99, those were both bands that I saw and was lucky enough to play with a ton back in those younger days. I mean, unbelievable, all of it. Like I hope that they all do more. I know it's really hard to at this point in all of our lives get back together and get everyone on the same page to do it, but yeah, I mean, it was really like kind of inspiring to see like not a bad performance among them.
Yeah, I was at that show. I actually recorded like pretty much everybody. I recorded 2 Kindling songs. I got a bunch of Jerome's Dream, Loma Prieta, and also that night Elizabeth Color Wheel blew me away. I had never even heard of that band, and then I saw their performance and I was blown away by that.
So they were a band that that Kindling had played a ton with in basements in Allston, at that old Blockbuster in Central Square that had briefly turned into a venue before I guess it came out that creeps were involved. But like they were one of those bands that like completely annihilated every single basement that they played. They had a house in Alston that some of them lived in, called Makeout Point, that you know, we were lucky enough to play a number of shows together with, and like, you know, they were like, I mean, the dynamic that they had,
Yeah.
and like what the crescendo that they were able to build to, like fucking furious. They're a great band.
Yeah, definitely.
Great guys too. Like great, really, really incredible people.
Yeah, yeah. That lineup was so good that night. And like you said, Jerome's Dream killed it. I didn't know what to expect, and then
Neither did I.
when Jeff came out screaming again, that was like, whoa, wait a second. Like I was like, oh, this sounds like not that I didn't like it before, but I was like, wow, this sounds pretty like intense now again.
Well, you know, I mean, at the time, I remember, you know, getting that last CD of theirs and thinking like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like,
Not the same thing, honestly.
you know, I mean, like, I didn't really, you know, I didn't, you know, as you said, I didn't know what to expect going into the Jerome's Dream show, but like, I couldn't have been more impressed by them.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of last 40 seconds again, you said you went on like kind of like your first major tour and you hit Europe. What were kind of like, you know, the best memories for you of those tours, and or possibly like some bands that you had never known that you played with way back then that kind of blew you away? Like there must have been some great memories, especially being the first real tour that you went on.
Oh yeah, I mean, we were spoiled. We you know, the weekend leading up to the first last 40 seconds like longer tour that I went on, we did a weekend with Crucial Unit, you know, up in like Maine and I think New Hampshire, Boston, which one of the people from that band taught me at that point, like this calling card scam. You know, because this was before I had a cell phone.
Yeah.
Before anyone really had a cell phone. So he taught this calling card scam so we could call back home.
Yeah.
Which was really useful for the coming weeks after that, where last 40 seconds, we drove from Maine. This was like the dumbest shit that you only do when you're, you know, young and even dumber than you are now. We drove from Maine. I think our show was in Portland, Maine. And we drove, I think it took like 28 hours or so. We stopped in Savannah, Georgia, but we drove all the way down to Gainesville, Florida, where we met up with Funeral Diner and Staircase.
Nice.
Which at that point, and you know, I mean, like through so much, like I would have, I mean, that was one of the first times in my life where I felt like starstruck. And it's weird to say about a DIY band, but like Grimace, the drummer of Funeral Diner, having been in Portraits of the Past.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like, you know, playing in the same room that he was like walking hallowed ground for me. You know, I was 18 at the time. You know, had just moved out of my parents' house. Like, I didn't have too much world experience, and I didn't have too much experience being around and like much less being friendly with people that, you know, their music had so much of an impact on me.
Yeah.
But yeah, being able to do that tour and then like getting to know the Staircase guys, and I mean, you know, talk about like more friendships that last for, you know, the long haul there. But that first night, we showed up in Gainesville, just as it happened, at around like 10 in the morning. At that point, probably still now, Gainesville's a fucking late town. So the show, we played at the Wayward Council, this record store. I think it might still be there, maybe not. No idea. Was pretty heavily involved with it at the time. And Last 40 had that record out that you know, was on Ape Must Not Kill Ape, which Abolition was involved with distribution of that. So, you know, it kind of felt like, well, of course, you know, it makes sense that we're, you know, bouncing from place to whatever. We showed up at 10 in the morning. We have the entire day to kill. The cell phone calling card scam came in handy. I spent a lot of the day on the phone and just sort of walking around and eating pizza rolls from Leonardo's. Then the show happens. It doesn't end until 4 a.m. So we go back to wherever we're staying, just this guy's house. I've told this story pretty recently, so I'm like pretty fresh on it. This is my first tour experience, right? Like the first time that we really stay with someone. So, it's us, funeral diner, staircase. Something like a dozen, probably 15 people sleeping on the floor through the kitchen, living room, etc. I was lucky. I got the couch. Guy says, good night. It's like 4:30 in the morning. Like, see you later. Oh, by the way, I have a couple of ferrets. They may, come out, hang out through the day, right? So I go to sleep. I'm fucking exhausted. Go to sleep. I'm kind of wake up to this strange feeling. It's hot. It's Gainesville. It's humid as shit.
Yeah.
Wake up to this strange feeling on my ankle. Wiggle around a little. Like, okay, well, whatever. I'm just, whatever. I'm just exhausted. Something bites down on my ankle. And, I do the mental math and think like, well, it's a fucking ferret.
Yeah.
So I get up. Before I even really know these people in staircase and funeral diner, I'm up. I'm like jumping over all these sleeping bodies that are like, gradually waking up, and these two ferrets are chasing me around an apartment. Lights come on. The guy collects his ferrets. That very auspicious start to a life in touring, right? So I think like, is it all going to be like this?
It's weird. Ferrets chose you out of a bunch of sleeping people, and you were being on the couch. Maybe that was their special place.
That was probably their spot. Yeah, I was probably on their spot. But yeah, that was good. That was I've kind of held a grudge against ferrets since.
I mean, I can't blame you, honestly. I mean,
they didn't do too much damage, but that was so that was that.
Yeah. Now, what recordings were you on the last 40 seconds?
None.
None.
So my name was on a number of the records because they came out after I had joined, but they were recorded with various other bassists. I think Timmy from Wolves, who you just had, he was on a couple. This guy Dave was on a couple. I was on none of the recordings. We did at one point drive all our shit up a couple hours up 91 to Vermont, and the basement of my folks' house up there, record a couple of songs, like some of the new songs that we had been working on since I joined the band. So probably lost to the tide of time, but but they were out there. I think one of the songs ended up turning into a Saddest Landscape song. Don't quote me on that. I'm not super familiar with their output. But at least Andy Andy, who was in that band that was the vocalist lyricist, he at the very least used the title of it. And we did record with this was, I think, October 2011. We went down and played a radio show at NYU. Not 2011, I'm sorry, 2001.
Yeah, I was going to say, whoa, you got back together again?
2001, Jesus. Yeah, so we went down and played a radio show with Steve Roach.
Yep.
Have you had him on?
I haven't, not yet, no. I would love to.
I mean, I'm sure he has a ton of stories. He was doing that radio show, recording like everyone.
Yeah.
Like some of the first, like the Spirit of Versailles stuff that I was able to find and hear at the time was,
Oh, no kidding.
NYU radio.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, I definitely, he is definitely on my list of people to get in, but that's for sure.
Yeah. I saw him pretty recently. He came out to one of the shows that Kindling played in Philly, on the tour that we did with that band Dirty Dishes. In Philly, we played with this band Life Uniform that one of your other former guests, Larry Everett, is in. I love Larry. I'm so glad that
Larry's such a great
guy.
Yeah, it was awesome.
One of the best.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy. I was like thrilled to have him on as well. Definitely. I've been talking to like everybody that I kind of looked up to and admired. I mean, I was in a small screamo band, but I had always been going to shows since I was real young. Like I said, my first show was in 1983 when I was 11, and then I didn't really start going to hardcore shows until I was like 15, which was like around 1987 or so.
Yeah.
And
You were in like hair metal before that, right?
yeah, I kind of liked well, SSD and DYS and Angry Simone's was my first show, like hardcore punk
Yeah.
show. But after that, it
Jesus.
was I saw every thrash band that you could ever think of in between. Then I saw like Flotsam and Jetsam when Jason Newsted was in there,
Yeah.
at Channel in Boston. I saw um, Testament and Overkill and all those bands in between, like Voivod and Creator at the Channel in Boston. So I was kind of into that metal. Like I was going back and forth between metal and hardcore.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then once like 87 kind of hit and 88, I was like full-fledged like New York City hardcore, Slapshot.
Yeah.
Back then, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones were playing all the time with Slapshot in Sam Blackchurch. So that was almost like an every Saturday, Sunday matinee type of thing that I would go to back then. So that's kind of got me going. And then from then on, it's I mean, I'm almost 50 and I'm still loving the scene and loving new bands and also, as well as branching out and listening to a bunch of other types of music as well. So
we're talking like shows that like the Channel, the Rap, that sort of thing.
yes, that's where I kind of grew up, like going to.
Was SSD as terrifying live as I'm led to believe?
That first show that I saw at the Channel, that was my very first show. I went with an older kid. I was very young. I was 11, and I was scared shitless. I had hair down to like probably here, and
yeah,
out of place that I was like, like honestly, I thought I was going to get killed in there, even though I was like way out of the way. That's what kind of scared me to not go to those type of shows for at least 4 years. So it was quite an experience, but the energy drew me to hardcore and punk. So like, I love the energy, but it was like kind of scary being that young. I hadn't had, being 11 is real young. So I think 15 I had more grasp for.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot, like there's a huge gulf there. Yeah. So Jerry's Kids, I'm sure you saw about a million times.
Yes, once. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like the record that I go back to a lot from.
So good.
I mean, I don't think that there's like a record that rips harder than Is This My World?
Yes. So good. I got to see Bad Brains once, but it was on
what year?
It was the Quickness tour, so it wasn't early Bad Brains, but it was still great for me.
What year? I say like I can judge. I didn't see Bad Brains at all. Like I mean, I wasn't even.
Yeah, you know what? Everybody disses the Quickness album, but I actually like.
Quickness is okay. It's all right.
So.
Bad Brains is better than. I mean, it's not even bad, but like their low is better than a lot of highs.
Yeah. I have to agree, definitely. So when did Montcalm start? Like, was it right after you ended with Last 40 Seconds?
Sort of concurrent, because Montcalm was sort of set to play what was essentially gonna be the final Last 40 Seconds show. It was sort of like, right around like a little after when Andy was starting Wolves. Just kind of, I guess I wanted something like I had these, guitar songs that weren't gonna end up as anything in Last 40 because Andy was writing all those. Yeah. Two Andys, it's confusing, but Andy Maddox was writing all those. I just started playing with. I forget how I met him, but this guy Rob from Boston, who was such a unique drummer. Like his style of playing is just like totally different than any other drummer that I've played with before or since. Yeah. And at the start it was this guy from Northampton, Sean. And that role of bassist sort of cycled through. Sean moved away, and this guy Nick joined the band. He wouldn't tell us how old he was. I think it was like 15 or something, which, I was 19. That seemed like a big world of difference. He lives out here now. Have you heard the band Leica's Orbit?
No.
They're incredible. If you like power pop, they're absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, he's still playing. He's still doing that. He's also in some heavier bands. But yeah, I mean, I see Nick around a lot. But yeah, he just sort of started out of the basements of Northampton. When I was living with Andy Maddox from Last 40, and I moved out and moved in with Andy Skelly.
Yeah.
Right after the European tour. The European tour was weird. It was like, that was like a real like line was drawn in that band. I guess between the two Andys, mostly that line was kind of already there. But for me, what crystallized was like, all right, well, I'm with Skelly on, all these interpersonal shits. Yeah. So I moved out and moved in with Andy Skelly, and this house on Olive Street in Northampton. This whole weird new world sort of opened up.
Yeah. Now, were you raised and brought up in Western Massachusetts always?
No. I grew up in suburban Boston. I moved out here. That little like personal ad that I had mentioned about the Last 40 Seconds seeking a bassist. I had convinced my folks to just sort of let me, come out a couple hours west. Ended up kind of fucking off from my last semester of high school, and just doing that whole thing with those guys.
Yeah.
Ended up out here because of that. Tried a semester at UMass. It didn't stick. Everyone's always like, did you move to Western Mass for college?
Yeah.
No, I moved for hardcore.
Now you were big, like the venues out there were like Pearl Street and Flywheel, right? Were you
well, Flywheel, yes. Pearl Street I later saw a lot of stuff at, like when I started sort of branching out from hardcore and DIY, and was getting more into the indie rock, the stoner rock, that sort of thing. But there were those places. There was the 11s, which I thought was for wannabe rock stars, which I mean, I'm sure I was just judgy and idiotic, but I'm sure that like the 19-year-old me would like look at me now and think like, fuck this guy. But yeah, I mean, Flywheel was the big one. The colleges all had shows. Like I saw a lot of shows at the Smith College Fieldhouse, which is exactly what it sounds like. They're like the soccer fields, the pond, everything, and just sort of, a function room, very small function room in the middle of the field. So I would see like Tipping Canoe there. Orchid played there a bunch. Ampere played there once. It was sort of like after the main run of things there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Hampshire College, Will and Brad from Orchid did a lot of shows at the Tavern, Red Barn too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, more the colleges and the Flywheel than anything else.
Yeah. I just mentioned those because they were when I traveled from New Hampshire, it was kind of like more of the metalcore shows that I saw down there.
Yeah.
It was overcast.
I don't think that shit was on my radar at that point.
No, yeah. I think it was
I would see like the show listings and see like Built to Spill playing there and think like, oh, that's cool, but it's like $15. I don't have $15.
Yeah. And the drive from us up in New Hampshire was, that's a long drive.
There's no straight line.
No, not at all.
You got to either go down and around or back roads, and
yeah. I know.
No easy way.
But back then we would go anywhere. Like the videos that I've taken are all over New England. I mean, from Rhode Island to Connecticut to Massachusetts, Vermont. New Hampshire. I didn't travel too much up to Maine. I did back in the late '90s when there was a place called Zoots up there.
Oh,
And
I remember. I never went there, but I remember seeing that on tour schedules.
yeah, so we
Zoots, yeah. I kind of think that they had their own. I think that they kind of had their own scene going on in Maine. It's like even when I was living with the rest of Ampere in Amherst, and Will was doing Dead Air out of the house. There would be bands from Maine that would come down that would be super friendly, would seem like people that we should know,
yeah.
but I hadn't heard of them, hadn't met them. It was hard. I mean, it's really hard to get to Maine from here in any sort of like time economical sort of way.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I mean, it always seemed like a different world. I like Portland a lot.
Yeah, Portland is really nice. It was fun to go to back in the day too. I remember I think Polyglot was from Maine, who Ian McFarlane, who went on to Blood for Blood, and then he directed that Agnostic Front documentary. Well, I'm pretty sure Polyglot was from Maine, and also a band called Rare Form that was really, really good. I don't know if you ever heard Rare Form, but they were really, really good. I could probably send you a link. I think that the full album is on YouTube, so I'll send you the link to that. But very interesting, like kind of hardcore-ish, different kind of hardcore though. Not so much chugga hardcore like tough guy stuff. More interesting.
I'm like weirdly more open to that now than I would have been at the time.
I wanted to speak about the Dead Seraphim split too. I love that split. I think a lot of people do too, as well as the demo as well. That was really hit hard and in my wheelhouse at the time, and I still go back and listen to it all the time now. What kind of got that 12-inch? No, it wasn't a 12-inch, was it? It was just a.
No, it was a 12-inch. Yeah.
It was. Yeah, that's right. How did that come about?
I don't know. I mean, it's got to be the internet. It's like we didn't meet those people until Montcalm toured with Durga around the release of that, which Durga shared a bunch of members with Dead Seraphim. But yeah, I mean, we never really overlapped with them as a band. So whatever world we were a part of at that point, I don't know if it was like Skylab or what, but or some listserv or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, just sort of ended up happening. We were on the same wavelength, I guess, and I remember them not being happy with the art that Robbie and I put together for it.
Yeah.
So there are a bunch of different versions of it.
Yeah.
And to be real, their versions look a lot better than our versions did. So maybe they were right. But we were cranking it out. Robbie was working as a screen printer at the time, and we just sort of cranked it out overnight the night before we left for tour. Just like screening this 2-color thing, putting it through this industrial heater, and just sort of hoping for the best.
Yeah, it seemed like
our best, I guess, wasn't so good.
Well, the DIY stuff was very inventive too, and you just had to do the best that you could to get as many copies out as you can, no matter what you did. Putting books together and whatnot, and do anything to get the product out to people that maybe not had heard it or new fans that get their hands on it.
Yeah, we did all sorts of weird shit. We did that demo in a hollowed out book that I wish I hung on to a copy of. I got all those like cloth bound books from the give and take at my parents' town's dump. Just grab that, like take an X-Acto and take like the 10 minutes per book or whatever to hollow it out.
Yeah.
Screen print the front. Yeah. Wish I kept a copy of that. We did a 3-inch tour CD with like one 11-minute song and then one like 45-second rudimentary P&I cover.
Nice. I don't think I've ever heard that.
We did. We covered "Sacrifice" by Rudimentary P&I.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. I mean, that was a song that my old high school crust punk band also covered, so it was familiar material.
Yeah. Now
So yeah, I mean, I don't think I have any evidence that it exists either, so it could just be a fever dream.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's out there. I
Now
think.
was the Codan Armada stuff the last thing that Montcalm did?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that was right at the end. The last song that we recorded. We did a couple of practices after that where we started writing like these longer songs. That I'm sure I have like 4-tracked somewhere at my parents' house, but
Yeah.
lost to the sands of time, I guess. But yeah, the Codan stuff is that's the last and probably like the stuff that like was closest to what I thought that band should have been.
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a solid split for sure. Now, Ampere started very soon after that, or was it in between? Like,
At the same time,
yeah,
we were starting sort of while Montcalm was still. Ampere started when my main focus at that time was Montcalm, Andy's was Wolves, Wolves was Orchid, and Megan was in this band Unicorner, which was just sort of starting to get going, playing a ton of shows in the Boston area. So it just sort of like, it lasted long enough to just sort of become the band that we were all in.
yeah,
It was,
because
it sort of, I think it started like after the Montcalm 12-inch came out, but before the Codan split came out. I remember one of the tours that Montcalm was on, I had copies of the Ampere demo to sell. Another thing that I should have kept a copy of. And
oh, really?
don't have.
Copy of that, huh?
I don't keep copies of anything. Like it's stupid. I went through this when I was younger. Like, I lived at a couple of show houses in Brooklyn, and whenever people would like express the mildest interest, I was just like, "What? Oh, you want this?
Yeah,
Take it.
there you go.
Take it. Like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
I know what this sounds like. I'm never gonna like throw this on.
Yeah. No, I was the same way exactly. Anything that I ever made, somebody sent me a copy of the EP that my band High School Sweethearts did. I did all the like artwork and put all the arrangements together and stuff like that. And I looked at it and I didn't even remember doing it. I was like, wow, I vaguely remember doing it, and I was kind of blown away because I hadn't seen it for we're talking almost 20 years. So I'm kind of the same way. We did a run of shirts. Of course, I didn't keep any of the shirts. Like, I just gave them all away. Like, I'm kind of the same way.
It sort of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, I don't think any of us planned on this shit being anything but temporary.
Mm.
I never did. Like, I never thought like I'm gonna miss, like the opportunity to have this. Like, I'm never gonna want this. Like, it's never gonna be this thing that like fuck posterity. I don't need, all this stuff cluttering my life.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, turns out I have a lot of other stuff cluttering my life. So like, but none of the stuff I've been involved with, I guess.
Yeah. Now, did you think Ampere would be as big as Ampere got? Like, you guys were a band for quite a long time, and you pretty much toured and played with every single like band that was really, really, crushing at that time.
Yeah.
As well as the splits with Daniel Striped Tiger, Sinaloa, Funeral Diner, Welcome to Plague Year. I mean, you guys had splits with every like amazing band back then too. Did you ever think it was going to be what it was when you first started?
Who does? Who does? Like, we were incredibly lucky to be in the orbit of so many talented people and so many, incredible friends that we made along the way. Like, a lot of those bands that you mentioned, like I'm still in touch with people from it, and we all are. It's great. I mean, it's like we were an incredibly lucky band to be doing what we were doing with the people that we were doing it with. And, I don't think any of us sort of had like any sort of machinations for any kind of like, arc or whatever. We were just doing it. So it's fun. It's, the a cool thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. And on top
Fun
of
thing to do with friends, and like this community that we were a part of. Like it just seemed really like vital and alive at the time.
yeah,
In a way that like I'm not sure that a lot of people get to experience that sense of community. And like, I certainly don't have that in my life now. I do by grace of that past, but
mm,
it's, yeah, I mean, we were, and I mean, I guess I'll mostly speak for myself. I was incredibly lucky to have been given the chance to be involved with all that. And yeah, I mean, we got to see a lot of the world because of it.
mm.
Meet a lot of people that I never would have crossed paths with otherwise. I mean, it's hard not to feel like a really lucky person to have just sort of happened into this through a love of hardcore.
Yeah. And on top of Will being a machine that he is, just
Oh yeah.
I mean, he just keeps going and going and going and putting out amazing music, till this day. I mean, as well as you too. That was, it's a testament to all these people that are getting up into their 40s or late 40s or late 30s and still putting out amazing music. I mean, just let alone you putting out something in 2 weeks, the Gold Dust stuff. I love talking about that. I love talking about back in the day, but I especially like hearing what all these artists and musicians have going on nowadays, because it's just, I think it's amazing that the drive is there and the love for the music is still there, whether it be like hardcore or punk or something different like indie or folk type of dreamy stuff that kind of Gold Dust is doing now. You playing everything on those songs too is amazing. The two songs that I heard are really good. So
I'll send you the rest of it. It's yeah, I mean, it was kind of cool to have it all come together and try to like work on some stuff that I wasn't super comfortable with otherwise. Like, I'm no drummer, but you find a way to make it work, I guess. But yeah, I mean, the Gold Dust record, I'm really like I'm stoked for it to come out.
and that comes out in 2 weeks, right? On the
2 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. I just, I'm putting it out myself, just a limited number of records and then a less limited CDs and cassettes. Yeah, just a folk rock record.
So if anybody hasn't heard it, check it out. It's on Bandcamp, correct?
Yeah, a couple songs are up now. I think there's going to be another song before it's out that goes up elsewhere. But yeah, it was taught myself a number of different things on guitar than what I was used to. I know I said earlier I don't know how to play guitar. Never bothered learning. Learn the power chord. That's about it. Like Gold Dust was like sort of trying to figure all that out, trying to relearn how to interact with this instrument I've theoretically known how to play for like 3 decades.
Yeah. Now was that kind of COVID inspired just because of everything kind of slowing down and it gave you more time to do whatever you wanted to do as like a solo artist?
In a way, I mean, I was I was demoing a lot of that stuff before it. I'd be like, staying in a hotel room and like have a guitar with me and just record some non-Kindling stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of like, well, we actually practiced as a full band a couple of times before the pandemic started, which was, obviously like a whole world of bummers. But, for me privately, that was like one of the personal bummers was that like, it was kind of cool to flesh these songs out with other people.
Yeah.
And to sort of have to retreat back into, just recording it in this room that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
It's a small house. This is like the space I got.
Yeah. Now is Kindling still active right now?
Well, we haven't been since the pandemic.
Yeah.
We haven't got together. But theoretically, yeah. I mean, we have like the better part of an LP demoed,
Oh, nice.
like our next record, a little heavier.
Oh, really?
A little bit, yeah, yeah. Sort of like I, I think Hush was a little heavier than the stuff before that,
Yeah.
and this is kind of, I don't know. I was listening to a lot of Sabbath when I was working those songs out, and listening to a lot of folk when I was working out the Gold Dust songs.
Yeah. Nice, nice. Yeah,
Yeah, chasing the two dragons in different directions.
yeah. Hush is by far my favorite album that Kindling has. It's so
Makes
good.
sense.
It's really good. Like really, really good. If anybody hasn't listened to that, it's a disservice for your ears that nobody heard that, or everybody that I've talked to that's listened to that loves that album. So, and it's really, really good.
I hadn't. I really appreciate that. I hadn't really given that record much thought, and like, right sort of, maybe about a year ago, someone reached out. I guess this hip hop artist sampled the guitar part in the intro of Wait.
Oh, nice.
So it kind of got me to like go back and listen to it. I'm like, yeah, man, like this, it made me want to write more. Like, and it's a fun band. I miss it. And like, of course, like it took some gas out of the tank when Andy moved to France.
Yeah.
But the band was always sort of mostly just Gretchen and I, and we were able to. We've been fortunately very lucky to find another incredible drummer, great bassist to play with us. It's this guy John that we were playing with, in the like half a year leading up to the shutdown, was starting to write songs for us, and his songs were coming out awesome.
Yeah.
Totally like in the wheelhouse of what we would have done. But the first songs that were written by someone other than me for the band, which was really, refreshing and cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so you could just step back for a second and listen, and you're not always the one that's.
Yeah, let go of the ego a little bit, like be a little less of a control freak.
Yeah.
I'll cop to that. I was a control freak at the early part of Kindling for sure.
Yeah.
But like trusting the people you play with, it's like a huge thing.
Yeah, definitely. I had a few more questions about Ampere. When I was talking to Pete, was the tour that Sinaloa in Ampere, it was the Cannonball Run Tour, right? And that was the insane, it was like a crazy amount to get, and you guys did it all across the country. What was that experience like for you? And plus, on top of that, the Sinaloa guys, every single one of those guys is incredible human beings.
Yeah, absolutely.
How was that experience, and what were some of the memories of that tour?
Well, so we left the Amherst. We left from our house in North Amherst at I want to say like 2 or 3 in the morning, and just drove straight to Detroit. And there had been like a party that night before that Andy had been at. I might be mixing things. I think I'm accurate with this, but Andy had been at, I had been at, but I drove the entire first leg from Amherst to Detroit. We played a show just outside of Detroit, and like it sort of became a matter of principle. Like, no one's going to take over. I'm going to do this whole thing on my own. So we get there, and the show's great. They have a whole potluck going on. Our set comes about, and the first thing I do, I got the microphone up like this, bring it down for the first word I say, sock myself in the eye. So for that whole tour, I have just a giant black eye. So that's a good start for it. I think we went from there to maybe. I mean, we only played like 2 or 3 shows in between coasts.
Yeah.
So we gunned it. I think we had both been on full U.S. tours and sort of seen, as you get to the middle of the country, diminishing returns on like, you'll play to like, some people that are really sweet people and really dig it, but like you get $5 and
Yeah.
but yeah, we drive we drive all the way out there. I think we link up with like these Speeds in the Northwest. Played a couple of shows with them, and as we're going through California, one of the Sinaloa guys notices in the vent. So we both had vans, but none of them, like neither the Ampere van nor the Sinaloa van, was particularly up for that sort of brutality.
Yeah.
So we rented one from this place sort of behind where we lived in Amherst. Just like a 15-passenger van that we removed the last couple of rows of seats from. So there are the vents, the air conditioning vents.
Yeah.
One of the Sinaloa guys, I think, noticed like the corner of a cigarette box up in one of them, takes the vent off, pulls it out. It's like, oh, packing Newports or whatever, flips it open, bunch of joints. So like, not everyone in the touring party partook.
Yes.
But those of us that did, we stopped at, I think it was Calico, one of the ghost towns in California, like sort of tourist trap.
Yeah.
It's, fired up that dry ass joint and just.
For some it was a great treasure, and for others it was
Well, the crazy thing was, I had been driving. We were trying to make our show in Boise, and we're like way behind. I was pulled over for speeding in outside of Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Like a couple of days before we found the joints. I was just thinking, like, man.
Yeah, if that had happened in Salt Lake.
Really good that we didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not a good state to get pulled over. Definitely.
No. I never paid that ticket either. I think it just.
Speaking of that tour, I still I don't have many CDs, but I still have this bad boy.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I also wanted to show you a picture of the Stores show that I took with a disposable camera. That you're screaming right there.
Yeah. That one's you? I've seen that photo.
That was me that took the disposable. On top of, I gave my buddy the camera at the time. I was like, oh, I'm going to take some snapshots with my disposable. And gave him the camera for a couple songs, and then I grabbed my camera back and started recording. But I always brought, a disposable everywhere I went. It was it usually only had, 5 or 6 pictures left in it, but I would just, take snapshots. And back then, you'd never know what you were going to get with a disposable camera.
Yeah. No, I remember that. You're all stoked to get shit developed at the end of the tour, and you get your rolls back, and it's all just thumb.
Yeah. Blurry. You're like, oh God, everything's blurry.
Yeah, no, I did the same thing. Had disposables. In the early day of flip phones, did the shitty granulated shots every now and again. I had a series of Nikon point and click SLRs that, I'd go on Craigslist and find for cheap and then break immediately. I never had an SLR for more than a month without breaking one. Yeah. So, I'm really, really glad for, the cameras that we have in our pockets now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had to re-buy a Sony camcorder just so I could get my 8mm tapes too, just so I could see what was on them still, because, my camera had died years and years and years ago, and I was afraid to buy one on eBay because I didn't want to spend $100 and have it eat my the first tape I put in there. So I was debating on it, and then I did it, and it worked out fine. I don't want to keep you too long, so I have a couple more questions to ask you, and then we'll get into the rapid fire.
Take your time. I got some. This is what I planned for the night. So
yeah. With Ampere's catalog, what kind of was your favorite that in your mind you guys put out? What was the best thing in your mind that you guys put out music wise, and what you were comfortable with saying I love this album, or I liked it, you know what I mean?
Some of my favorite songs that we did ended up on Shadows. Tiny Victories was I think one of the songs that, like, you know, I wish we got to play that one a little more live. You know, obviously that was sort of as things were winding down a little. But the split with Sinaloa too. I mean, just what that represents, the time and the place that it is, and you know, I always really liked playing the song at its heart and at its head live. It just always had like this, you know, really good energy to it when we played it live. Yeah, you know, rare was the day that I wouldn't put that on the set list.
Yeah.
But you know, also the I don't find myself like really thinking too much about the audio behind it, but that live 11-inch is a really special record to me too, because that night, I mean, it just kind of felt like, you know, that night that we recorded that, we had a show at the house, which we never had shows at that house. That was where Will did Dead Air.
Yeah.
And you know, we had like sort of a, you know, that 4-band show: Daniel Striped Tiger, Death of Tyrants, Wasteland, and us. Just playing in the studio, mic'd up, recorded everything, and put out as an 11-inch.
Yeah.
You know, just like pulling that out, seeing the photos from that, seeing the photos that Megan's posted from that night. It's just like, you know, that's one of those nights that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. And like, there aren't a lot of those nights, you know, but that's one of them. And I remember every single set, like, to a T. Which is another thing I can't really say too much about those days. I was, you know, often pretty fucked up. And I was that night, but that night was like, you know, just dialed in. Like, I was aware of how special it was when it was happening, which is like, you know, rare that you get that opportunity to know, like, hey, this is something pretty fucking amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. When I heard that, I was, you know, I love those bands as well. So all those bands together on one was very special to me too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, like those people were like the closest, and you know, again, like lifelong friends. Like, yeah, I'm very grateful to know all those people through, you know, screaming into a microphone.
Yeah, definitely. I always want to ask. I always ask whoever was involved in this. What was your experience with the Wolves Ampere Punkestra that you guys put on? And I was lucky enough to record 2 of those sets as well. Which there's not.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, I loved Wolves, so being able to like do vocals for those songs, like you know, there was a period where I was like lobbying to become vocalist for Wolves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I knew Tim loved like writing the songs, you know, doing the art, like being the guy that was putting the Wolves stuff together.
Yeah.
But you know, I feel like I remember hearing or something that that he didn't particularly love the like vocal part of performance, which, you know, ironically neither did I. But I thought, like, hey, here's my way to here's my way to glom onto this thing I like.
Yeah.
But no, it was really cool to, you know, especially the selection of songs that we chose. That was like, you know, the 10-inch songs were like incredible. Being able to play guitar too for them, which, you know, I never played guitar at Ampere shows, so cool to pick up something I can hide behind.
Yeah, especially the one at Tufts in Medford was like really memorable. Like crammed, everybody was crammed in, and
yeah,
it was really special. And the other one was Friendly Fest, right? One of the Friendly Fest.
Yep. Now, I think that was also the year that. No, that wasn't the Chaos Pilot year, was it?
No, that was his last Friendly Fest where Pig Destroyer had played that show as well. Yeah,
right.
Which was a great fest too. That was amazing.
I just remember being amazed how tall Chaos Pilot were.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I agree.
You know, like we were pretty tall, but like they made us feel like.
Yeah.
I think the shortest guy in that band was like 6'5".
Yeah, they were big guys, definitely. It's funny. I was talking to Brian Furnett, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Van Johnson played that show," and he's like, "I don't remember that." I'm like, and then I said, and he was like, "Oh, I guess they did play there." He had totally forgot about it. So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, 20 years. We're talking 20 years back. My memory's not great, and I'm sure a lot of other people that try to think back on kind of blurry, and especially someone like you had who had played a billion shows back then too with a bunch of bands. It kind of like things must blur a little bit for you.
They do, but then your memory's jogged by like, running into someone that was there or whatever, and them giving you some details. Like, oh yeah, I met you at the, weird barbecue we played in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
Which, exactly a conversation I had with my friend Ben, who, his band and Kindling played together a number of times. So like, oh, all right. So like, rewind to 2003, and we were, in the same basement across, like halfway across the country.
Yeah.
Or a quarter across the country, whatever.
Yeah, it reminds me. Same thing with me too. Was somebody was told me I went to a Mid Carson July show in Lawrence at the Knights of Columbus, and I'm like, I didn't go to that. And then they send me me and him together while they're playing, and I'm like, oh, I guess I was at that show. Like I couldn't remember. It was crazy.
Well, I find for me, like a lot of times the memories kind of like, intertwine with like the mythos that you tell yourself of the time, like particularly with that Lawrence, the Lawrence warehouse, that there were a bunch of shows in the early 2000s. Like I remember seeing like Annie Product there. I want to say a couple of Orchid shows. All that sort of like winds itself together for me.
Yeah.
Where I think I'm just waiting to meet the right person to, set me straight on my memories there.
Yeah.
Help me figure out like, and your videos do a big part of that. Like, oh, this was XYZ night, like that Alston show that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have remembered that.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that on my own, but there's video evidence of it. So
yeah exactly. I know. I wish I had brought my camera to everything, but like I said before, there was some times where I just wanted to enjoy the music and not hold. And a lot of the time, you see me going down because I'm switching hands because my arm was getting tired. So it's kind of like, so I would say maybe 70% of the shows that I went to, I recorded, and then the other 30, I just wanted to enjoy the show and not, I didn't want to be still the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, like that for me, the same deal. Like couldn't be bothered.
Yeah.
Just like, the moment was so important at the time, where, now with the benefit of retrospect, you wish you had, taken a little more care to create, solid memories, not just, the ones that are swimming around back there somewhere.
Yeah, true. And also, I always see a bunch of other people recording on the videos, and I never see those recordings. I'm like, where are those recordings?
Yeah,
like,
there were a ton of cameras at the time.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's very strange. All right, I'm going to start the rapid fire on you. Hope you're if you've seen any of my other discussions, some people get, taken back by some of the questions because they don't even know how to answer them. So I'm just preparing you for this rapid fire.
Well, I mean, I've always thought that I'm like a pretty bad interviewee. So, I've been sweating this shit all week. So we'll see. Let's do this.
All right.
Let me try to shine as the bad interviewee I think I am.
My first question: all-time favorite New England punk hardcore band for you?
Showcase Showdown. With an asterisk. Wasteland also.
Oh, Wasteland, so good, so good. It's very, like, I wish they went on a little longer, honestly, because I love that band.
They were one of those bands that, like, I felt like at the time I was like desperate to have people understand how absolutely incredible they were. It was just like one of those things where, like, I just sort of wanted to, like, every person I met just be like, listen to fucking Wasteland.
Yeah. Yeah. It
I
was
mean, like everything about them was great. Their lyrics were smart. They were like crushingly heavy.
yeah.
Um, their tone was incredible. Like Therian and Jasper were like, two of like the people that cared most about amps
Mm.
before I started thinking about like, oh, you have Marshall, that's good enough.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they knew everything and they had their sounds dialed.
yeah,
Yeah, Wasteland was fucking great.
yeah, definitely.
But so was Showcase Showdown.
I raced to Salem, New Hampshire at a Boys and Girls Club just to see Wasteland one night. It was like I'm like, oh, they're playing. I forgot about it. And I raced down there, got it, recorded it, and then left.
Yeah.
I was like, I was, I had plans or whatever, but I'm like, I'm not missing Wasteland. So
Right.
I was lucky enough to just record them, and then I got out of there right after they left, just because like I had plans. But all right, I digress.
Therian and Jasper lived in this house together in Amherst near Hampshire College. That the basement was just like, it was a small basement, but like wall to wall, all four walls, amps, cabs, like, yeah, it was wild.
My second question: what was the first punk hardcore show you attended?
Um, Aside from just like shitty suburban VFW shit,
Battle of the Bands, just kind of like your first like real hardcore punk show.
it would have been like Toxic Narcotic, Global Threat, The Unseen, that sort of shit.
Yeah. Do you remember where that was? What venue?
Emerson College.
Oh, nice. My next question: what was your all-time favorite show you played? And it could be a couple because you were in, multiple bands back then. What was one of the couple of the memorable shows that you played?
So there was a show that we played with Ditro, Rain, etc., Sinaloa in Montbrisson, France. That was like, it was incredible. It just seemed like everything sort of came together. Just a great experience. Um,
Sorry about my dog, Macy.
no worries.
All right.
I think your viewing audience would like to see the dog if possible.
Usually my dog Jack comes up like right here to see what I'm doing usually, but I think he's lying on the couch right now. So
I've been waiting for Luna the cat to emerge, but I think she's sleeping somewhere. Cannot be bothered. But yeah, the Montbrisson show. That's the one that like 1000% stands out. There was the Ampere 10th year reunion show that we played in downtown Northampton. And this was like right when I had moved back to Boston from, New York, Philadelphia, doing the whole circuit. That show was absolutely incredible. We started it playing our demo. So we did a set of our demo as the opening band. Which, obviously we haven't played those songs in like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like we were quick to leave those ones behind, but yeah, played those songs. Then like Waxahachie played. It was one of their early shows. Wasteland got back together for a Death Tyrant, Staying Striped Tiger.
Yeah.
It was just incredible. Like all the bands that have been there with us the whole time, sort of
kind of came together and
yeah. So that was great. I have a special place in my heart for all the Aerosols shows, just because they were like so fucking chaotic and bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. Like they weren't like bad experiences, but like something fucked would always happen. Like first show of Aerosols tour, when we just put out our LP, it was in DC in this bar. Chris Aucoin, who just won the Emmy, was making his vocal point and punched a light bulb and cut his wrist open. So like we're obviously fucking panicked.
Yeah.
Go to the hospital. That entire tour was like a tour of hospitals.
Yeah.
We had to get his wound evaluated later on the tour, I think in North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
And then that tour was with Salvation and The Oath. Or no, not the Failures.
Oh, Phil.
And at the show in I think Nashville, maybe Memphis, Tennessee, anyways, Will in Failures jumped off stage, came down weird, broke his leg. Weird tour. So those hang out there in the old memory bank.
Yeah, the funny thing is I forgot to mention Aerosols. Aerosols was so brutal and so good, and it kind of a switch up pace for you also. Everything was
That's so fun. That band was a lot of fun.
Yeah, everything was on Youth Attack, right? That you guys put out.
Yep.
That band was so brutal and fast and heavy and like full of energy. Like I said, you saying that so much fun. It just sounds like a band that would be fun to play in.
Oh, it was. I mean, it was like, we didn't. So running low. I'm trying to connect the. Well, whatever. I'll hold it. Yeah, I mean, like we never. We were just like, self-destructive, and it was a lot of just like plug in. Who cares if it's bad? Just capture that energy.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
So fun. Yeah, I
don't have those records either. I have like the weird versions of those records, but I don't have like the actual versions.
And I feel like it doesn't give enough. Like people don't talk about it enough because, like me. But I love it, and I think it's underrated, and people should go back and listen to that stuff because that stuff is so good, so good.
I think if anything, it suffered from being too hyped at the time. Like, I remember when we were on tour when the LP came out, we still had copies of the LP, and it was already going like $100 or more on eBay. Like that wasn't of our creation. That was stupid. I can understand people having a weird taste in their mouth because of that. I get it. But yeah, I mean, more than anything, that band was fucking fun. And Coin's lyrics are awesome.
Yeah, that's just kind of like a switch up, almost like an like blue when played or you, but
Yeah. I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna try flipping my phone upside down. See if that. Am I upside down to you?
You are upside.
All right. I guess that doesn't work.
Well,
I'll put my charger on, so I don't have any good way to put my phone down now.
Yeah, I'll keep going with the questions. I won't keep you too long.
No, it's no worries at all. Like this, I should have charged a little before.
Yeah. My next question: what was your all-time favorite hardcore punk show you attended that you didn't play, that you went to go see?
Universal Order of Armageddon's reunion show. I went. So I was living in Somerville at the time, and just spur of the moment decided to drive down to Brooklyn to Death by Audio to see it. So I drove there 3 hours, 3.5 hours or whatever. Was there for the show, missed the openers, got there just in time to see them play, and just went to. I had lived in Brooklyn for a couple of years before that. I knew the place to go that was open 24 hours to get a good sandwich.
Yeah.
Got a sandwich to go and got back in the car and drove back to Somerville and worked the next morning.
Oh, nice. Yes.
It's just a bike mechanic job, so it wasn't like a little taxing.
Next question. I'm a big movie guy. Some people aren't. Some people are. What was the last movie you watched?
I watched. Well, it's October. So I watched It Follows last night.
Oh, nice.
Have you seen that?
I have seen that, yes.
It's I had seen an acquaintance of mine post about it saying, he's doing this thing where he's watching 30 days of horror movies.
Yeah.
And, I watch a lot of horrors and thrillers. I watch a lot of movies. I wouldn't say that I have great taste, but, I like a thriller.
Yeah.
But It Follows, I thought was really well done. It was one of those movies where like I went to the IMDb and read the trivia and interpretations afterwards. It was a good movie, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. It was almost like a throwback too, like kind of like a throwback from.
Well, yeah, like I don't know how I missed it at the time, but it totally predicted the whole like Stranger Things, like '80s Stephen King revival with like the synth music and
Yeah,
yeah, it was good. I mean, it was definitely a fucking genuinely eerie movie.
yeah.
Um,
I
might watch. I've never seen Hellraiser, and I might watch that the next day or two.
Hellraiser, really, the first one.
Oh, I've heard it's just absolutely depraved.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the second one, uncut, is by far like probably the best one that I've seen out of all the Hellraiser movies.
yeah,
But the first obviously opens the door to the whole world.
yeah,
Effects are kind of dated though when you watch
yeah.
that.
Oh, well, I'm sure, but that's kind of the charm, right?
Yeah.
I remember, I just remember being a kid and seeing the Hellraiser box at Blockbuster or Video Smith or whatever.
Yeah. Now,
So,
are you gonna try to do 30 movies in 30 days or?
no,
No.
not at all. I mean, like I'll watch 30 movies, but they're not all going to be. I mean, there's no intent behind it or anything like that.
Yeah. I watch movies.
I'm seeing a no, and I'm wondering if that's reacting to Hellraiser.
It could be. That's Justin from New Forms.
I know, and he knows his horror.
He does know his horror. Me and him go back and forth though on horror. Sometimes we don't agree on everything. I know Justin; he's a good guy, definitely.
Well, I wonder what the Justin. Do you care to
elaborate?
Yeah. I mean, if I shouldn't watch it, like let me know if it sucks. And
Oh yeah, he's saying number 2. We spoke on it before. I love number 2. I think it's yeah, like he said, me and him are a movie. So
fair enough. Time is finite. I'm looking for any tips to avoid wasting my time.
yeah, watch them both for sure. So like you can't really one of them.
Yeah, look, I figured it out.
So I'll keep going. My next question is, it kind of goes with horror. What is your all-time favorite horror movie?
Geez, I don't know. Like, I feel like such a new jack to it. Can I just do favorite recent, maybe?
Yeah. Favorite recent.
So favorite recent. I mean, I really liked Mandy.
Mandy
I'm
was.
I'm a big fan of Nick Cage. Period.
Yeah.
But like Mandy in particular was like, I mean, it felt. There was another one that I watched around the same time, where Cage is in it. He doesn't say a single word. I forget the name of it, but
Willy's Wonderland.
that's it. Yeah. that was. I loved it. I mean, like that's the sort of shit. Like I'm entertained easily, and that I really liked.
Yeah, like everybody knocked Nicolas Cage for a while there, but the last like 4 or 5 movies that I've seen him in have been pretty damn good. So
well, he puts it all in, like he delivers.
now, have you seen that?
Even if it's a bad role, he inhabits the badness of the role.
Yeah, that's true.
Like if it's cheesy, he lives in the cheese. You get the impression, like you always appreciate someone who gives a shit about what they do, right? And you can tell that, he gives a shit about what he does. And like maybe he's an idiot. Probably not, but like, maybe he's made some bad choices.
Like
maybe he doesn't care.
Like Color of Space. I was just going to mention that. Have you seen that yet?
Which one?
Color of Space with Nick Cage.
No, that's on the list.
Yeah, that's worth watching. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right, I'll keep going. I'm a big hip hop guy. I listen to like mostly 90s boom bap hip hop. If you've been listening to hip hop lately, what have you been listening to, whether it be new stuff or old stuff?
Not much of anything. I don't really have too much knowledge in that whole world. Andy Skelly always listened to a lot of it, and he lived in the room right above mine, so all of the stuff that I knew about to was because of him, like the Black Star, Most
Yeah.
Def stuff. You know, like that's the stuff that really like sunk its teeth in and made an impact on me. But you know, I don't know. I mean, I'm so far down like a like 70s funk rabbit hole that
Yeah.
like that doesn't.
Yeah. All right. And my last question, favorite, oh, you're swirling a little. Hope I didn't lose him. I might have just lost him. His phone might have died. We'll see if he comes back. Justin, even though we battle in horror movies, I still love you, brother. We're gonna try to get him on to end this talk. It's been great. There you go.
Sorry, guys.
Your phone die?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. I'm on my last two questions. Oh, his phone might have died again. See if we can get him on. We almost made it. We'll try to get him on as he's charging his phone. All right, let's see. Here we go. IG's always pulling the tricks. Always. We're gonna try to get these two questions over with.
I'm plugged in. In theory, this should be good, but you know, we'll see.
All right. My next question: favorite Ampere to play live?
Favorite song to play live, at its heart and at its head, probably would have been Tiny Victories, but we didn't really play that too much at all. But I really like that song a lot.
And my final last question, knowing Andy lives in France, is there any way that Ampere will come and play some reunion shows anytime soon?
Never say never. You know, technically it wouldn't be a reunion because technically we never broke up.
Oh, nice.
You know, kind of just like, you know, the time passed and here we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely makes it hard being a global pandemic and Andy living in France.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Now, and my final question too is, do you still have a fever right now to play heavy music and do some screaming again, or is that kind of in your past right now?
You know, I was talking to Will about this just earlier today. You know, he said something to the effect of like he's, you know, more curious about my hardcore future, and I told him about how physically fucked I was the last couple of times Ampere played.
Yeah.
Like, it, you know, I run a lot. I was a mountain biker. Like I'm used to taking some physical abuse, but like there's something that hardcore and playing hardcore as a vocalist does to my body in particular that is just like, I was so fucked. But you know, I don't know, maybe.
What about guitar?
When Kindling was recording Hush, I got kind of like I got into this like sort of like brain freeze where I just kind of wanted to like hit reset or something, or like, you know, cleanse the palate. So I recorded these like 4 or 5 hardcore songs, which, you know, like Gold Dust is my first solo record, but like technically I recorded a solo record.
Really?
I put it on Bandcamp a while ago. It's under the name Apologies.
Oh, nice.
Check it out. It's just like apologiesh.bandcamp.com.
Yeah, nice.
4 or 5 songs. I forget how many, but like, yeah, it's fun. I could see myself doing something like that again.
Yeah. No, I'm very interested in listening to that. And also speaking of hardcore and screaming and stuff, what about playing guitar in a heavy band again?
Depends on what you want to consider heavy. I mean, as I said, the new Kindling stuff is going to be pretty heavy once it happens, as far as like down-tuned and stoned goes. But I mean, as far as like hardcore goes, who knows? I mean, maybe
Yeah.
I'll do something like Apologies again. Maybe
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It's just not what's coming out.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm excited to listen to that because I never knew it was out there.
Yeah, I didn't like. I told like, Galanis is in the chat there saying, "Oh shit, I remember that." I think he's like one of 5 people I sent it to.
Oh, no kidding.
I sent it to like Will and like O'Coin and McCoy. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you taking time out to talk to me. Everything that you've done, I've really enjoyed, and it's been a pleasure talking with you. And I was glad when I reached out to you that, you agreed to come on here and shoot the shit with me for, an hour, close to 2 hours. It's been super fun for me. I've been excited about it all week long. And like I said, I want to thank you so much for doing it.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me. I've been, I was, of course, honored that you asked me, but I've been like stressed about it, especially all day. I was like, I run trails. I run up on Montcalm every day, and I'm just like, it's all I was thinking about. While running, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna make a fucking ass of myself, and maybe I have, but it's been fun. So
No.
if this is the way I'm going down, making an ass of myself, then
No,
so be it.
not at all. Like I said, I like to make it seem like it's two old friends like shooting the shit about stuff that was back in the day and what's going on. Like it's almost like we're catching up on what's going on now and just reminiscing about stuff before. I like kind of the talks to go organically and whatever kind of pops up in my head. I kind of have a structure, but I mean, it always goes to the side with a sidebar or whatever. So
Yeah.
I get the anxiety of people, thinking about talking with me, and I was super crazy anxiety when I first started doing these things, but
Yeah.
I feel like I'm trying to make it just like two old friends talking about hardcore and punk and back in the days, and also having people that haven't maybe seen you think about those old bands that you were in, and now tomorrow they're going to put on an Aerosols record or something like that. I just want to give some shine to the old bands and also the new stuff that you've been working on.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely like, I'm grateful for it. And I've been grateful for, when you've interviewed friends of mine, just being able to pop in and, see people that I haven't seen in years. And, it's nice. It's great what you're doing.
I appreciate those words. And like I said, let's stay in touch, and like anything you need, just reach out to me and vice, whatever you need in New Hampshire, I got you. If you need a good place to eat or where you want to go up in the White Mountains or whatever, hit me up. I'm sure
Yeah.
because England, so I probably don't have to tell you anything like that. But
there's always something new to find.
that's true. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you have a great night and stay safe out there. And definitely talk to you soon.
You too. Thanks a lot, Hal. Really
All right.
appreciate having me.
Thanks, Steven. Talk
Thanks.
to you.
Have a good one.
All right, you too. Bye.